Hi everyone, I'm Nina from Mobilize. I am the Customer Success Director, and I have been with the company. I was actually their first employee hired in the US, so I have worn many, many hats, as I'm sure all of you have as well. So I've been with the company for over 2 years now, and I have started off in marketing and sales, and now I'm happily in customer success. And my role on a day-to-day basis is basically to take all of our amazing programs, whether they're ambassador programs or developer relations or on-demand economy or sharing economy companies, and make their programs amazing and successful and at scale. So with that, what we'll be talking today is tips and tricks to running your ambassador program. So you've made this amazing decision to actually build and run an ambassador program, so now we're going to teach you the nitty-gritty of how to actually do it. So you want to go from having an amazing idea to all these happy, smiling people who are helping you voice your brand and talk about the amazing work that you guys do. So there are a few steps to doing that. The first and primary one is building a plan. You need to have a plan and be organized before you even get started and have your first ambassador in the door. So that'll be the first thing that we cover. The next thing is recruiting, and actually who do you pick and identify to be your ambassador. After that, it's all about program operations, the day-to-day tasks, the nitty-gritty, everything that you need to do to have your program be successful. And then last but not least, and my favorite part, the best practices. There are a lot of ambassador programs out there, so why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? Let's take some of the best practices from everyone else and make those applicable to your company. So first up, with building a plan, you want to know the why, the type, and the what. So with that, why do you want to have an ambassador program? Why is this critical to your business and to your company? What are those underlying objectives? Are you trying to drive revenue? Are you trying to increase referrals, increase leads, build brand awareness, brand love? What's your purpose for this? For example, with a few of the companies that we have, Docker, Scoop, and Prezi, and I'm happy to say that our team from Scoop is here as well tonight, which is awesome. They have a variety of different objectives, but they're all going towards the same goal. They want to build an amazing brand ambassador program. So for Docker, for example, they have Meetup organizers all spread out across the globe. And these folks host events and meetups on behalf of Docker to bring the word about Docker, to talk about new products, new updates, why Docker's awesome, their open source community. So we have the opportunity to work with them and to help them amplify their voice. With Scoop, their objectives are to actually increase referral and to bring the Scoop app to more people, to make ride sharing and carpooling a better part of our lives and make that process even easier. For Prezi, their objective, they actually work with a huge experts community. So with their experts, these are their folks that are on the ground working with the Prezi product day in and day out, and who actually sell the product on behalf of Prezi. So Prezi actually operates in over 17 different languages, and they've got these amazing experts that are there to help users use Prezi in their everyday business. So the type. What type of ambassador program do you want to have? There are a variety of different ones you can have, and we've talked about 3 of them so far, between developer relations, between referral programs, if you're doing speakers or influencer programs, or even an experts and resellers partners. There's a whole variety of programs that you can pick from. And more than likely, you're probably going to have a combination of maybe 2 or 3 of them. You'll probably pick up elements for each. And as you scale and grow your program, you may even have more than one of these within the same community. So for example, for Docker, they actually have 3 or 4 of these. They have event organizers, that's their main community, and then they have a community of bloggers, people who talk about their conferences, their product updates, all the meetups in general, and then they have speakers, people who are actually on the ground at these meetups speaking, or even at their conference, which is actually happening this week. So get creative. You can pick a variety of these. You're not limited to the kinds of programs you pick. You really can shape your program to exactly what's needed for you and your business objective. So the what? The goals of the program. So now you've defined your program objectives. You know exactly what you want to do. If you want your host to have more meetups, if you want them to drive more referrals, if you want to create content. Now you need to measure the program's ROI. So this is a big thing. You need to understand your user's brand journey. So how do they even get to you? How do they even know about your product? What's their whole life cycle and history with your services and with your product? You need to know whether there's a brand ambassador impact on any new leads that come in. So then on top of that, you want to define the program's health. So is this program even working? Like when you're putting all this effort in, you're building up this program, you've dedicated resources and time and budget towards it, you want to make sure that you're getting your money's worth and that it's working. So to do that, you want to know how many referrals are your ambassadors bringing in? How many of them are hosting events? All of these you can find as you build out your metrics and understand the plan to this ambassador program. So now we get to the best part, recruiting. Who do you want to have? Who do you want to have that's building out your brand and talking about your product and sharing that brand love and encouraging people to actually be a part of your company? So we'll cover a couple of things. You want to define the role. Who are these people and what are they expected to do? And then you want to find out who are they? Which portion of your population are the people that you want to be an ambassador? And then what are their goals? What are their motivations for being an ambassador? Why do they even care? Why do they want to be here? So now, the role. You need to define what your ambassadors are going to do. What are they expected to do for you? Are they hosting meetups? Are they creating content? Are they speaking at events? Are they creating feedback for you? What are they doing and what's the expectation there? You also need to figure out how often are they doing this? What kind of an expectation do you have for them to be an ambassador? Are they talking about your product on a daily basis? Are they bringing in new referrals weekly, monthly? Are they hosting events quarterly? You'll probably have a mix of these and there'll probably be a variety of different things, but you need to know what kind of expectation and time frame each one of those is going to take. So the last part, how will you monitor their activities? How do you even know that they're doing this? You've got people who are stationed super far away. You're probably not going to get to meet them in person yet. How do you know that they're even doing this? You need to have a process of check-ins. You need to have a solid process of training with that too, with checklists and tasks to accomplish. You need to be able to check in and have a good rapport with them so that you can know exactly the health of your program and whether they're actually accomplishing what you set out for them to do. So identifying the right people. There's a few different ways to do this. You want to know who are your ambassadors, and it could be a variety of different metrics for you. It really depends on your own use case. Is it your top customers? Is it your top influencers? Is it based on product usage? Is it based on history, like how long have they been on your product or your app? Are they campus reps? Are they existing meetup organizers that you just happen to know from the community about that they're awesome? That happened with Docker. They had amazing meetups that were happening independently of Docker to begin with, and then Docker said, this is an amazing program that happened organically. Let's make this easy for everybody to run their own meetup and have their own program going. So that's how they got started with it. So with that, your ambassadors are going to be basically your champions. They're your advocates, and they share your brand's vision. That's the big key ingredient. You want people who love your brand and share what you guys are working towards. So there are probably some characteristics that you have in common with all of them. So what do they have in common with each other? Is it demographics? Are they in the same age range? Are they in the same location? Do they have the same interests, the same areas of expertise? Do they work for the same company even? They might have some similarities that you can tap into. So on top of that, now that you've done that, you need to define the persona, and all of these data points come back to that. So all of this age range, the metrics, the locations, all of this comes back to who are they. This will help you sort of define what you need to do and how you find them. Where are they located? Are they hanging out on social media? If so, what channels or what avenues are they on? You need to find out where they are so you can actually bring them into your program. So that's how you get to knowing their goals. You need to know what motivates them. Why would they want to be an ambassador for you? Why would they want to spend time outside of their day to be a part of your brand and your community? What's in it for them? So for some of these folks, it may be a career development opportunity. They may have the ability to build their resume, to become an expert in a specific area of interest, to talk about your product, maybe even to get hired by your company, or maybe to actually improve in their current role. They may have that opportunity, and that's why they're doing it. That's why they're motivated. It could also be that they just want to know more about your company. They love being on the inside track and getting the news before everybody else does. That may be the other reason why. They want insights. It may also be perks and swag. I can't say that everybody here has not had a piece of swag somewhere in their bag probably right now. So it may even be that. Maybe they're doing it because you're paying them. You may have the budget and the resources to do that. So maybe they're being paid, and that's part of their motivation. But I'm gonna guess that probably for most of them, it's a combination. They love you, they love your brand, they love your vision, they wanna get the knowledge first, they wanna be able to talk about it, and they wanna build up their own business even. If it's a resellers network, it's probably that too. So for you guys, if you don't know, and maybe you know a couple of the reasons, but maybe you don't know the full history, ask. You have an opportunity to ask them, why do you wanna be one of my ambassadors? So at the end of the day, these folks are your partners. They're not just an extension of your employee. They're not just your street team and on the ground and doing work. They're a partner of your organization. They're there for mutual success. If they're successful, you'll be successful. And that's a key thing that you need to remember as you're building out your program. What's good for them will be good for you as well. For an example, and I'm happy that our friends from Scoop are here, we can actually show you a little bit of their form. So this is what they use to actually recruit their people. And their top line was actually really amazing. It's why we brought this out as an example. You can see here that thanks so much for joining the Scoop Ambassador community. Together, we'll be able to fight traffic, help the environment, and save your fellow employees time and money. That's their goal. They want to make your everyday life, your commute, we all have to commute, we want to make it better. We want to make that time that you're spending on the road in a car more productive, a better experience for everybody, help the environment, and be part of a community. That's a big part of it. So be like Scoop. Now you get to the program operations. This is the day-to-day stuff. This is the I'm in the trenches, this is what I'm doing, how do I make this actually work? We've got all these really great big concepts and great ideas, but how do we actually take it into action? So you've got a few things here. You've got a life cycle. You need to know every step of the way what your ambassadors are doing. And then you've got your playbook. So you've made this successful in one city or one location or in one aspect of your business. How do you scale this out for all the other aspects of your business? How do you take this program from just being in San Francisco or the Bay Area and make it work in Chicago? So how do you scale that program out? And the last thing, my favorite, because I'm a nerd and love checklists, checklists. Checklists are my friend. They're the best things ever. So on top of that, your program life cycle. So you need to know, are they coming in with your recruiting process? You need to know how you're bringing them in. Are you talking to them? Are you meeting with people? Are you pulling existing people that are already part of your product? That's how you're bringing them in as recruiting. Now that you've got them here and they've said, yeah, I want to be part of this program, it sounds awesome. You have to train them. You have to tell them how to talk about your brand, what the specific voice is, what the brand guidelines are with that. That's a huge thing. You're having this huge voice, this huge community that's talking and celebrating you. You want to make sure that they're saying the right stuff and that they have the product knowledge beforehand to really speak with an expert opinion on it as if it was their own product. Then you've got the communication. You can't just leave them in the dark. You've recruited them in, they're excited. You can't just disappear. You need to keep the communication cycle going and to keep that open and to share more information and announcements with them. And now, the best part that everybody loves, the reward. They've worked so hard. They're building in parts of your program. They're referring new people. They're talking about your product. They're speaking at events. They're becoming your evangelists. They need to be rewarded. And it can be as simple as something as just saying thank you. It can be a very simple, thanks so much, your meetup was awesome, we loved going, on Twitter. Very simple, or it can be as much as sending them swag. It can range, and you have the opportunity to really define how you reward them and how you make them feel loved and a part of your community. So the playbook. This is the first part of really understanding how you bring this program to fruition. It's a new program. You're building this out. You're learning along the way. You're going to have some bumps. It's just how life works. So you want to take note of what stuff you tried, what tools, what platforms, what content you used, what you shared that worked, and what didn't, so that you don't make that mistake the next time around when you go to another program or to another city. So for example, you want to make sure that you're keeping your consistency and your tone of voice consistent across every program that you have. So whether it's, for me, I like to have in my playbooks, I like to have training sessions. I like to have all the content that works. If you're sending an invitation message to your ambassadors to join, put that in there. Put the one that worked and got the most amount of opens and got the most responses, put that in there. So the next person who brings your program to their city can do the same thing. They'll have that opportunity and the advantages of what you learned to bring into their own work. And you can have in here, you can have your swag ideas, your benchmarks, your metrics of what they should be hitting in the first month, the first quarter, how many ambassadors they should have, how much content is being produced. They can do all of that, and you can have that all here. The checklist. Again, my favorite, the checklist. You need to have a checklist to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and that you're always hitting the steps to make sure that every single ambassador that you bring in has the right amount of training, gets the right amount of content, understands your product, and is able to be successful. No one goes through the cracks. Everyone gets the same kind of content and training here. So the easiest way to do that is to have a checklist for every new ambassador that comes in. And that can be done with an application form. You can have a code of conduct. I know a lot of companies that have ambassadors have them sign an NDA or have them agree to terms of service because you're sharing proprietary information. You need to have all this built in, and you need to have a record of it so that you can go back and reference it later and repeat it again as you keep scaling. So you'll have in here, your regularly shared content. So maybe you do a weekly update. Hey, this was all the progress made by our ambassadors last week. These rock stars brought in 55 new referrals. You can do that. You can share that kind of content and have that in here as part of your playbook. And then on top of that, you need to utilize the best practices. This is what I know everybody is always wanting is more best practices. What works for someone else? How can I apply it and tweak it to my community? So you'll have a lot of these best practices in your playbook, and you'll also learn some from the pros. So here we go. You've got your 3 main areas of best practices. You've got your recruiting, what it takes to recruit the right ambassadors, what kind of content you need to send, and how to make it work. The communication, what should you be sending to them and doing with them on a regular basis to keep them still engaged and still keep them part of your ambassador community? And then how do you reward them? How do you tell them, you just made my whole day. You made this amazing. This was a fantastic program. I can't thank you enough. Like, how do you do that? So your best practices for recruiting. You need to know some basic fundamental data. You really do. And I'm guessing that you probably already have a fair amount of it in your company already. You'll probably already know their name, maybe their email address, maybe if you're lucky, their phone number, their location, a user ID, any data that you can pull internally to set up to have as your base for knowledge is great. And you'll have the ability to pull all that information and then couple it with your operational data. What do you need to actually communicate regularly with your ambassadors? Do you need to know what their interests are, what their areas of expertise are, what they're interested in doing for you as an ambassador, where they're based, the products they're using? What do you need to know that would make your job on a week-by-week, day-to-day basis that much more effective? And then on top of that, if you don't know, and you probably will have some gaps, there are things you're going to miss that you won't know, like maybe the why of why they want to be an ambassador. You may not know that information, or you may not know things like their social media handles. Ask. This is a great opportunity to ask and find that information out. So you've got application forms. That's how you get this additional information. Not only can you have the existing data that you already know about them, this is your opportunity to learn that much more. So how much more do you want to know about them? Do you need, if it's a campus rep program, do you need to know what company or what university they are attending? Do you need to know what major they are or what class they're part of? If they're part of a company, what company are they working for? Maybe even what department they're in. Maybe their job title might be useful for you. Like if you're talking to a community of developers, do you want to know who's the CTO at the company? Might help you. It might help you even as you're trying to sell. Might be useful. And then on top of that, you want to know how they're interested in being involved. This is a key thing. You're asking for someone to take time out of their day and out of their week. How do they want to spend that time? Do they want to mentor other people? Do they want to host an event? Maybe their company would be happy to sponsor an event. Do they want to attend events on your behalf? Do they want to speak somewhere? How do they want to be involved? This is a huge, I can't even explain how huge this is to get this kind of information, because it's going to help you as you reach out to your ambassador community. Imagine having an event and saying, hey, I need 5 people to help us, or I need a company to host an event for us. We're actually showing up to this conference. It's totally last minute. Can anyone's company host us for an event? If you see on here on your form that you've got a whole bunch of people who are interested in hosting, you've just now given yourself an avenue of people who are front runners to help you out. That's exactly what you're trying to go for. The most important thing on your form when you're asking people to sign up is why. Why do they love your brand? What about it do they identify with? What makes them excited to talk about your brand, to be associated with it, to work with the product if they're working with it? What makes them be a part of it? So you can take cues from the pros at Docker and Scoop, and we saw Scoop's form earlier. We'll see what Docker does here. They've got a couple of options. So they've got a really nice form. They've got their basics on the left with their first name, their last name, their email, their postal address. And you know why they pull their postal address? So they can send them swag. All these meetup organizers are hosting events globally. They use that address to send them swag so that their events have tons of product that they can work with. And then on top of that, they collect more information. So how do you want you or your company to be involved? Do you want to be a blogger? Do you want to be a speaker? Do you want to be a customer or user reference? That's a pretty cool thing to find out. Imagine if you could help out your marketing team and say, hey, we've got 50 people who want to do user stories. Awesome. I bet they're probably going to love you for that. Talk about giving more ROI to your program. I've just helped out 6 other people on the marketing team by giving them more content that they can use to promote and keep that cycle going and have more brand love. Then on top of that, they have their main topics of interest. What are they interested in? What do they want to talk about? What do they want to host an event about for Docker? And then sharing your Docker story. Again, going back and having more content that you can share with across your teams and use to only bolster your own website and your own content. It's a great opportunity to have people talk about why they love what you do. So communication best practices. You've got your tools. That's your first and foremost part of your front line here. You've got your data set. You know who you're reaching out to. You've got all your ambassadors. You've figured out who they are. They've agreed to be a part of your program. How do you communicate with them? How do you keep them in the loop? How do you engage them? You want to make sure that you're sending them the right kind of content at the right time, and you're sending them information that's unique and interesting to them. So you're probably going to have a variety of channels to do this. I would imagine most of you are probably doing Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat even. You're probably going to have a mix of that and your traditional email, SMS, maybe even just good old-fashioned phone calls. You may have a mix of all of those, which is okay. It totally works. You find what works best for you, your team, and your community. Where do they want to be reached out to? That's where you need to go for it. Then on top of that, once you've figured out your communication channel, that goes right back in your playbook. What worked for this group? Let's add it to the playbook. Maybe it'll work for our next group too. Maybe we can keep working off of this and keep improving our communication to them. So engaging content. You want to make sure that you're not bombarding them with information. You want to send them relevant, timely information. So make sure you're communicating them with them regularly. And make sure that when you're sending them content, you're not just asking them to do stuff for you. That's a huge thing, to keep hitting someone up and asking them for help. We need help, we need help. You want to send them information that makes them feel loved, that makes them feel like they're a part of your team and your community. You want to have them be your ally, your advocate. That's a huge part of this. They're not just a gopher and doing stuff. They're part of your team. They're part of your family. So treat them like that. So send them product updates, send them product announcements. Make sure they're not the last to know. If you have a new product coming out, they better be one of the first ones to know about it so they can go out and talk about it when they do their meetups and say, this product's awesome. It not only makes you guys look good and amplifies your reach to the rest of the community, but it also gives them an opportunity to shine. It makes them look like an expert in what you're selling or what your products are. It makes them look great, and it helps them build their resume and keeps them excited about being one of your ambassadors. And then on top of that, you can get insights on the program. This is a work in progress. No program is ever complete. You want to learn what's working and what's not. So ask them. This is your opportunity to say, hey, like, I want to make sure that you're happy and that you're liking this program and that you want to keep doing it. So ask, get a temperature check, get some feedback. And make sure you invite them to special events. One of the best things that I've seen ambassador programs do is if they have a large-scale conference, they'll have an exclusive event, invite-only event for their ambassadors. Make them feel unique and like the belle of the ball. Make something about just them. You have an opportunity. You're already doing this huge conference. Not only does your event look cool, it appeals to them, gives them an opportunity for you to meet them face to face and make these amazing real-life connections and remove the computer screen that we're all sitting behind too often. But it gives you the opportunity to recruit even more. Because, hey, look, there's this really exclusive event, and I'm not a part of it. How do I get in that door? How do I get to that event? It helps you drive more referrals. And on top of that, you want this to be a relationship. This is not just a one-way thing. It is a partnership, and you need to make sure that they know who you are and that you know who they are. It only improves your program, and it makes it easier for you to go back and say, hey, I could really use your help. Do you think your company would be interested in doing a user story for us? If you know them and you've had a couple of beers, it's probably going to be a lot easier for you to ask that question. So don't send them only tasks and requests. Make sure you're sending them all sorts of content, invites, make them feel special and loved. And don't ignore their feedback. If they give you feedback and say, hey, this was really tough. I can't figure out how to host a meetup. Take that as a learning opportunity. Why couldn't they host a meetup? Did we not do enough training? Have they never spoken at an event before? Do they not have enough swag? Could they not find an event space to host them? How can I help? I'm sitting up here and I can help them. I've got a reach that maybe they're in Melbourne and they couldn't find an event space. Who do I know in Melbourne that that has a great bar or event space that can help them out? You can use this feedback. It's not negative. It's actually really positive. It'll help you build your program and make it even stronger and make it better. So use it to your advantage. Building trust and transparency. This is part of the communication process. If you keep sharing them new information and updates and announcements and treat them as part of your team and part of your company, they're going to appreciate that. That's a huge part of the reward as well. Because you're trusting them with this information and this knowledge, they feel invested in your success. Your success is by extension their success, and vice versa for you. If they're successful, you're successful. You've hit those metrics, you've matched your ROI, and I'm gonna guess that your business objectives have probably been met. So, feedback channel. This is where the reward part of this comes in. This is everybody's favorite because it's always fun to reward people. So you've got a few ways to reward them. You've got swag, events, those are the obvious ones, and you've got feedback. Feedback is a really powerful tool. To listen to someone is a really powerful tool. It's one thing to talk at them and talk at them and talk at them, but it's a whole other thing to listen to them and to hear what they have to say and to take their feedback seriously and say, I heard what you said. Maybe our delivery times aren't fast enough. Maybe we should be sourcing from somewhere else to make that ride get there that much faster for you. Or make sure that, if you weren't able to access the app when it was offline, we'll make that fix for you. If you can improve your product and help them, it's a win-win for everybody. And really treat it that way. If they're giving you honest feedback, they're sitting on your app or on your product all day long. I'm gonna guess they're probably gonna find some things that would make their job easier if they tell you, listen, see what you can do to make it better for them. You want to help them reach their potential. That's kind of your end goal. So best practices around swag and events. You can see we've actually got some on the table back there, so if you are desperate for a pair of sunglasses, I'm sure there are a pair back there with your name on it, so go for it. There are a variety of ways to do swag, and there's a variety of ways to present it. I've pulled a few examples from here. You can see Buffer is one of my favorite ones. One of the ways that they reward and thank people, either for purchasing an account or upgrading their account or just giving them some fan love, is writing a thank you note. When was the last time you actually got a piece of mail that was a legit thank you note that wasn't spam from some random company? It's so amazing and rewarding to get that little piece of just, hey, someone thought about me. And they throw in stickers and a t-shirt. Awesome. What a great way to talk about your brand and show that you're different and awesome. Same thing with the second picture here, Grace Hopper has a posse. It's from a company called Bug Crowd. Grace Hopper was one of the first female coders. She's amazing. And they've actually taken her image and made it into a really cool t-shirt. That t-shirt is the first one to go at every conference that they have. And I bet you now that you've seen it, you'll probably see it around town with someone wearing it. It's an amazing way to have someone rep your brand without overly repping your brand. And then you can see there's also Docker here at the end. They gave away scarves one year at one of their conferences, and it looked awesome. It went really well. So think about who your audience is. Who are your ambassadors? What are they doing on a daily basis? Are they traveling all the time? Are they speaking? One of our friends, their company is called Jolt. They have an ambassador, a speaker community as well. They gave away presentation dongles for when you're actually speaking at an event. What a great thing to brand. What a great thing to give. Like, how easy would that be? Super easy. If your ambassadors are traveling all the time, accommodate that. Give them a travel adapter. Send them a portable charger. Send them a sleep mask. You have an opportunity here to really, the sky's the limit, to figure out what you want to get them for swag that they'll love and use all the time. So praise. Again, we're going back to the praise thing here and saying thank you. A little bit goes such a long way to just get a nice shout out of, hey, your talk was awesome, or hey, this was an amazing meetup. I'd love to talk to you about what you did so we can make someone else's meetup equally as awesome. That's an amazing way to show some love with minimal impact, like minimal impact from you on your day, but huge impact for them. How do you make it an amazing experience for them all the way through the process, from becoming an ambassador, going through the training, talking about your product, to then actually getting some love and some reward? So you can do that. It's a huge morale boost. But make sure you're not praising just your top performers. You want everyone in your community to feel a little bit of love. So you want to make sure that you're distributing that and that you're not just focusing on a few small percentage of the community. So now that you've seen this, everything from building your plan to recruiting the right people to your program operations to getting shit done to actually praising and having your best practices in place, now it's time to go get them. It's time to build out your program. It's time to take what you've learned and build upon what everyone else has done and the success that they've seen and wrap that into your own program. Take that opportunity as a way to flesh out what you're doing and make your program full of rock stars and your champions. These are basically your people who are amplifying your voice on a mass scale. You really have the ability, much further than your own voice or even your company's voice can go, to reach so many more people and impact them on a huge scale. So take advantage of it. Make sure you're aligning your objectives with theirs. Make sure it's about mutual success, that if they see success, you see success, and that they're happy to be a part of your ambassador program. That's really the key to making it work and in making sure that you get to have fun in the process. I mean, these are awesome programs and you get to spend time with really cool people. It should be a great program too. So that's it for me. If you have more questions or if you want to learn more, come talk to us. We're here. Any questions?
Oh, and also, we should say that people, there's 8 people watching live stream, so they can tweet their questions.
Oh yeah, please. And for the folks who are live streaming, please feel free to tweet your questions. We'd love to have them on the screen here too, so we can respond to you as well.
And if you are on the live stream, you can tweet your questions with the hashtag OCTribe, and if you are not on Twitter, post them in the live stream and I will ask them. Questions here? Yes, Mark.
That was great. So much information. Like I am looking forward to the live stream archive and the slides. But you're talking a lot about asking people what they want and listening. And in your experience, are people good at really saying why they're doing it, and are they honest about that?
Sure. I think it's a mix. It's a great question about, are people really honest, and are they telling you really what they want, and is there really that clarity and transparency there? I think part of it is that you're going to have to read a little bit of the tea leaves and really understand, like if they're talking about something like maybe a product feature that just isn't working, try and dig a little further, probe a little further and say, okay, if you had that, what would that get you? What would that help you accomplish? Having them phrase it that way and forcing them to say like, oh, actually I really want X. not what I said, but actually what I really need is this. Like, I need an event button that does this instead. Like, I need +1s, for example. That's a very different experience than I just want to add more people. That's not totally what they want. They want to be able to have their guests say, I want more than one person, for example, if that's something you're talking about. But I do think that, you know, as you get to know the community and as you evolve your community, there is definitely more trust and they're more willing to tell you more things. It's not just necessarily like a straight bitch session of, I hate this. It's not that. It's mostly like, this is hard for me because I can't do this. That's so much more effective in terms of feedback because that's something you can solve. If they say, I can't do this because I don't have this, cool. Maybe our product team's actually working on that. Maybe I can actually like tell them, hey, we've got people who really need this. What's our release date for this? Can we push this up in the funnel? Can we make this happen sooner? That's a lot easier for your dev team, for your product team, for you, for them to really understand. Because once you've communicated that, you can go back and say, you're totally right. We're actually adding this. It's in our roadmap. It'll be out in a couple months. And I'll keep you posted as soon as it's released. That's keeping that loop going of them saying, wow, they actually really heard me and they're actually doing it. And then when you go back in a couple months and you say, hey, remember when you asked me about that? It's here. Super easy to keep that loop going, but you're right, it does take time to build into that trust. It's not automatic, but having your in-person events, having more communication with them and regular communication only makes it easier for you to get there.
Louis.
You know, you touched on it in the slide, but could you talk about the kind of, it's not opposite, but the scenario where you need to remove people from as an ambassador, or when for whatever reason, either they've been there too long, or say the community isn't growing and it's a kind of hard decision for them to let go, but you realize, you know, it's kind of at that point, or for whatever reason. Yeah, I'm just curious to hear about that.
That's a great question. If you're at this point where maybe you've got a lot of ambassadors, or maybe there's someone in there who just isn't the right fit for your community at this point, I think the best thing that you can do is to be honest about that. I mean, obviously you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or be cruel or anything like that, but to say like, hey, you know, our ambassador program's actually shifting in directions. We're trying to do more of X or more speaking events or more engagements, and it looks like, you know, you're not comfortable with that, or this isn't like maybe the right direction, but I'd love to keep you in the loop for some other things. And you phrase it that way and you say, you know, I think you're really great at X, but we're really focusing on Y right now, so I really want to keep you in the loop for the next time that we need something related to what you're good at. So you don't, you know, you keep them in the loop because maybe they will be valuable to you. Maybe they will come back again in the life cycle and be useful to you in 6 months or a year or something, and maybe you have a different product avenue that you can work with, and they're still a valid part of your community. And hey, they've been there for a while, so you know when stuff was old or what the original product looked like. They can give you some insight. So maybe it's just that you kind of shift their direction and their priorities in a way that keeps you with a good product and a good program, and keeps them without getting their feelings hurt, and making sure they're still invested and love your brand.
Other questions? I have a question. So my question is, how does Mobilize IO look? Like, what is like the actual product? I mean, you have a lot of knowledge, and this is very, very helpful to all of us. I mean, I'm thinking about it from a different perspective than Lewis's, but how does your product kind of work into creating an ambassador program?
I know our happy CEO here will be happy that I'm answering this. We work in a variety of different ways with a whole bunch of different programs. Like I said, we work with everyone from DevRel to ambassadors to on-demand. So we fit pretty well into your life cycle. Our goal is to really focus on the operational needs that you have. So for example, the forms that I showed you, the application forms, those are forms that actually live on Mobilize. So they have that sitting either on their website or that they share out on social media. That's what's recruiting people into the funnel. So you want to bring them into your system. That's collecting your data. And then we sit in the communication side. So we give you all sorts of communication opportunities around sending messages, sending event invites, sending SMS, sharing content, sharing files, having a member directory. We can give you the interface for which you actually communicate with them and connect them and have them all living within the same system. So you're not running around between a spreadsheet and your email list and MailChimp and everything else. You've got actually everything synced into one place, from recruiting, from like acquisition, if you want to call it that way, recruiting, all the way through your communication life cycle, and keeping them all happy and in one place. There is actually a freemium version on the site. So if you go to mobilize.io, you will actually be able to start creating your first groups. You can actually set that up, invite your real members, start sending them messages, get them going, and you can actually see the benefits. I am a huge fan of the application form because I love to learn more about my community and who my people are. So I can tell you that from all the people who are in our group, I'm constantly asking them questions on the form of like, hey, what are you doing? Or hey, how do you want to help? Or hey, what's interesting you? Or what's a challenge in your job? That's a huge one that I like to ask is, what's the biggest challenge that you face day to day? What's keeping you up at night? Because that information helps me when I'm writing them content and saying, hey, you should try this. Maybe this would help with your community. Maybe this would help bring in more referrals. That's a big part of it. So for me, our system helps you recruit everybody, communicate with them, keep them organized and sane and not in a spreadsheet, and have them actually be able to communicate and even connect with each other. We give you the ability to have that slightly more social side where they can see who else is in the community and talk to them too.
So if we have been using, let's say I've been using Eventbrite, and I have like several hundred people, maybe 500 people from events, is there some way to import that information into the tool?
That's a great question. If you have an Excel or a CSV or literally just their emails, that's all we need. If you only have their emails, cool, we'll work off of that. You probably want to know more. If you only have their emails, what else would you want to know about them? This is your opportunity to do that. And actually, we work with other groups like Docker actually has a huge Meetup account too. So we help them. Meetup sits as their like external facing side to the community, to the people that they don't know yet who maybe want to attend an event. Mobilize sits as their in-between database. So after you go to a Meetup and hang out and meet people, they want you to come to their community, and you can see it on their website. It says, get involved with the Docker community. It's awesome, and it's a link that kicks you right to their form, which is on Mobilize. So now that they know that part of the life cycle of that specific Meetup attendee, they know what to do with them. They know, like, cool, this person actually bought like 10 of our products. Maybe they'd be really interested in being one of our ambassadors, or maybe a speaker at our next event. That's a really easy way to learn that kind of information. So for your Meetup, have everyone do the Meetup. Meetup's a great way to find new people, and then use Mobilize as your database and your ability to actually communicate with them and to keep working off of that.
Any other questions? Yes, here.
So this was just a comment, to be honest with you. We've been using Mobilize, so I work for Scoop. I've been doing all the ambassador program as well. We've been using Mobilize, how long has it been now? I don't even know. I think it's like, 6 months or so. The app and the service is incredible, but that's only one side of it. Nina is really, and the team that they have there is probably the most valuable part of the whole application. When I talk to most people about, and I'm not getting paid to say this, I promise. When I talk to people about Mobilize, I actually don't even talk about the app or the service or anything. I actually just talk about the support that comes with it. Constant conversations with Nina about how we can improve our program and the way that we can sort of direct it as well. So just as a FYI, if you're thinking about going for Mobilize, it's a lot about the support, but the system is incredible as well. So yeah.
So, our situation, what are your recommendations, best practices when you have a really archaic online community platform, and so there's a need for an ambassador program and to grow it, but it's going to be very difficult to integrate, between a new dynamic app like Mobilize, and I pretty much know our developers would say, sorry, I'm not going to reveal TechSoup's issues, but it's very complicated just within our own internal systems to maintain the online community. So when there isn't seamless integration, is my question, kind of how do you structure Mobilize so that you're not adding a whole nother, like we have ambassadors already. It's challenging enough for them to stay and kind of excited about our online community. And so my concern is you're adding another, kind of to put it crassly, another layer of bureaucracy for them. So, and you laid out the ways to engage them, but kind of at the technical level, the kind of technical and incentive level, how do you, what are your recommendations on that?
That's great. And we do work with that a lot. I've actually worked with quite a few groups who have come off of Google Groups or something else, and they're trying to migrate over into something new that they can have that's a little bit more modern or to help their community and has a better feature set or whatever it might be. There are a few ways to do that. I mean, from an actual data set perspective of actually moving data from one system to another, if you can at least get it into an Excel or a CSV, we're golden. That's the basics. I mean, we have an API as well, so if you can hook up an API, then great. But if not, CSV is good enough. In terms of the bureaucracy and getting people engaged, I think that's one of the biggest things that we have, is that your members don't ever have to log into the system. They can receive their communication and their information from wherever they are, whether it's email or SMS or calendar invites. Some of our members have never logged into our system, which is totally fine. It makes no difference from your admin perspective. Like, you still get all the open rates and the tracking and the link click-throughs and all of that, but you're not impacting your community in a way that they're not happy about. So if they don't want to sign up or log in, cool, they don't have to. For the other ones who do, great. They have something new that they can take a look at. They can see the other members. They can communicate and be a part of that too. It really kind of fits a lot of different folks and their use cases, their tech savviness, if you will. It fits a lot of those different kinds of groups. We work with a variety of different communities who have varying levels of tech savviness, and it's worked out well because at the core of it, it's email. And pretty much at this point, everyone's pretty well versed in email, so it works out pretty well. Does that kind of touch upon your question? Okay. Yeah, and actually I just want to touch upon one last thing that Adam had brought up, that he was talking about his ambassador program and the referrals. And I have to say it's one of the most rewarding part of my job, and it's why I love getting to do what I do. He sent me a really great message, a chat message a couple months ago that said, hey, we finally cracked the referral challenge that we were having. We're getting so many more referrals now, and it's awesome. And it's great, and I'm finally seeing the success that I wanted, and we're starting to hit our metrics and get our objectives and actually match what we want to do. That's the most rewarding part of the job, and getting to work with so many amazing different communities across so many different types is getting to see their success. So really in a lot of ways, I feel like I get to run my own ambassador program because their success is really my success. I got to brag about that for a whole week in the office that, we finally figured this out and it was awesome. And he was so happy about it. So that's a really great part of it. And I feel, very, very lucky for you guys that you get to do this every day with your community, that you get to see their success and have that be part of your job too. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nina. It was a great talk. And just a reminder to people online and those in the room, all of this will be archived beautifully thanks to our sponsors and on our YouTube channel. So what is the YouTube channel address? Is it just, it is that? Okay. So youtube.com/OCTribe, and we'll be tweeting it out, and the slides will be in there. And we are taking a break in July, and we will see you in August. And please eat all the food. Thank you.